Okay, so let's talk about some of the things we need results with. You can start with misinformation, which leads to the question of communication.
Right.
And of course, we could also talk about all the various, what I call thingies, that everyone resorts to rather than face-to-face communication.
Right.
And in my college sociology classes, I often have my students go out and say, okay, are people talking to each other? Let's find out. So they have to go somewhere where people might be socially connecting, let's say eating out somewhere in a diner or something, and they sit there and they're supposed to observe what people do. And my students come back and they're really shocked. No one's talking to anyone, they say.
Right.
Even the littlest child is, doing it somewhere else. And they said they barely speak to the waitress.
Right.
So, it's really quite an observation. It really shocks them. We're not speaking to each other. We're not looking at each other. And this is something that hinders us in many ways. And we have to find a way to get back to communication.
Which is ironic because even, the example you provided, there is a way in our applications that we have today that we don't even have to interact with the waitress because of the way technology has allowed us to do that. Different platforms have given us the opportunity to not have to make that interaction. But for a long time, technology was introduced into our environments that complemented our environments. And right now, at times, it is a distraction from our environment. Because you know what? If I'm driving my vehicle and I'm paying attention to my phone and I run somebody over, there's nothing on my phone more important than the fact that I just impacted so many people's lives. And how we go about using technology in a way that complements our environment rather than distracting it from us can improve our experiences. And that's a lot of what I'm trying to do here, is trying to improve our experiences in as many aspects as we possibly can, so that way we can enjoy each other more. We can kind of get out of that inability to have a conversation and relate to each other. So there's a lot of benefits to it and how we can make improvements.
Okay, there were 3 topics. You took misinformation, the second was politics, and the third was business. Okay, so tell us a little something about politics and tell us something about business.
Well, all right, so politics, as you know, for example, we have voting, right? Very important. We have a new House of Representatives. So our political challenges that we face right now is kind of falls back on what we talked about with misinformation, our political position on how we feel the choices should be made in our environment. So if I were to ask you, who has more rights? Do you have more rights or do I have more rights? And the question is, sometimes it could be offensive, and it could be an offensive approaching question, but I'm asking that because as citizens, it's important for us to have a dialogue about what we feel we have as equal rights and what we feel we have the right above or as a priority over your rights, for example. So how we have that language is really important to establish growth. The problem is that we have right now is that if you feel that I'm not giving you your rights, you're going to be defensive, and that doesn't improve communication whatsoever. So as citizens, my understanding is that we have equal rights. And even if you're not a citizen, there's an approach on how we become a citizen, but let's have a dialogue about how we get to the result. Let's look at and propose policies that gets us to the solutions that we have. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be policies. It could just be aligning our interest in terms of business, our relationships, making solutions more efficient and more effective to individuals, businesses, and us as wholes.
So it's kind of getting back to where we might have been at one time, but we lost our way, didn't we?
Absolutely, and I think that one of the biggest challenges that I face as an American, as an individual, is that what is my identity? My identity was very clear when I was growing up. and what my identity now in terms of being an American is not as clear. And what it means to me to be an American, I'm very proud to be an American. I feel that we have done amazing things within this country and established leadership in the world. But how can we improve that? And how can we continue to drive that and build those relationships? So, and that's hopefully what will be accomplished through this.
In many ways, we've lost our way, haven't we?
We have, but I think it's a breakdown of the way we're communicating with each other, and our ability to recognize that somebody may have a voice or an opinion makes it very challenging for us to even to hear what the other people are saying, because we may not want to, or we may not understand what they mean by it. So.
And this can go through the generations. It doesn't matter what age we're talking about.
Right.
There were some friends of mine who had a little girl, 8 years old, who was very unhappy, didn't want to go to school, wouldn't go to school. They didn't know what to do. And I said, bring her over and let me talk to her.
Right.
And so, of course, I know what to do with children. I taught many years ago in the Lower East Side in New York, and I had a lot of experience with people of different nationalities and ethnicities. And so the little girl came over, and I took out my hand puppets.
Yeah.
And I had a skunk, furry skunk, and I had a little chipmunk. I said, which one do you want to be? She wanted to be the skunk. And then she took time to inform me that a skunk it was a carnivore, that they could have eaten the other one.
Yeah.
And that's why she wanted the stronger part. So we talked, and actually I said, why don't you want to go to school, whatever? And first answer was, I don't know. And then if I was quiet, she would start to talk.
Right.
She started to tell me what was troubling her. And it turns out, of course, that she was being bullied in this class that she was in, and the teacher wasn't recognizing it or helping her with it. I'm sure that comes up a lot. But the thing is, communication, even with a little child, is so critical.
Absolutely.
But how do we get there? You see, we don't know how to get there.
Well, the benefits of us being able to identify those markers and being able to apply them by using macro and micro data to identify those opportunities can be beneficial to society in general. Because, for example, my wife works in Trenton. She's a teacher. I'm very proud of her. And she has some very challenging situations that she has to face with some students, and her approach on providing solutions to those students is going to impact who they are going to grow up to be, and that's going to be an impact on our society. So how we go about having that rapport and those relationships and building off of that impacts what environment we end up having and how we can create that for each other. And we have, as individuals, we have the opportunities to make those choices. And we're lucky to live in a free society that gives us that opportunity. But we should not waste the time. We need to take that opportunity and apply our skill sets to them, so that way we can get a better return on investment. I talk about that over and over again. But our community is. So I find that when we really apply ourselves to the processes, we can stop being cynical about what the results are. And if we look at how we can challenge our approach on getting the results, it'll make that involvement will make us understand what really is happening that is breaking down the processes. So, that's why I'm asking for people's help today.